guys, so today we're doing a Make Up Your Mind. So NATASHA DENONA has announced the mini Starlite palette, and I know I kind of like gave you guys the scoop that this was coming out. Trend Mood has it up, and I am so excited to start searching for the colors for you guys. So if you're new to Make Up Your Mind, what I do in this video is I try to mimic an eyeshadow palette that's newly released to kind of get an idea of what the colors are going to look like. I do this on purpose so I can see if it's a palette that I want to pick up or not, because usually what I can do is see if those are colors that I tend to use a lot, or if it's colors that I use together, or if I just don't like the palette in general, because I start noticing I'm reaching into palettes of colors that I never use. So it helps me decide whether I want to buy the palette or not. So I'm not trying to mimic the palette in order to create a dupe. I'm trying to mimic the palette in order for me to decide whether I want to buy it or not. So anyways, that is what we're going to do in today's video. Today though, I had a lot of help from my friend Amber on Instagram. Thank you so much. She actually had all of the palettes that this little mini was being made out of, and she sent me an image of her palette that she created by taking apart her palettes, and she also sent me images of the swatches. So that is super, super cool. So we're going to be referencing Amber's swatches as well as the NATASHA DENONA ones to the ones that I found. So that is what we're doing in today's video. If you're excited, don't forget to hit subscribe, and if you love Make Up Your Minds, then hit subscribe because this is where you can see them. So let's go ahead and let's start. So first thing I want to tell you guys is this mini Starlite is completely repeated colors. So none of these are brand new shades, at least not per at least they're not like really brand new shades. Sometimes NATASHA DENONA will say that they reformulated a shade and it could be a little different. She has not announced that yet as of this moment, but in theory, because based off of the numbers and the name, they are repeated shades from other palettes. So for the first one, Nude Mauve is actually inside of Lila, and it's also inside of Retro. So the first one is Nude Mauve right here. It's in Retro. I'm gonna swatch it from Retro, but you could also find it inside of Lila. So Lila also has Nude Mauve. So if you have any of these two palettes, it's right here, right? Nude Mauve, this one right here. So if you have any of those two palettes, you do have the very first shade. So we know it looks like this. So this is definitely the color. So that's the color. Really pretty color. It's actually, for me, a great color for blending. I actually like it a lot. I've used it a lot. I've used it a lot when I use Retro, and I also use it a lot when I use Lila. So to me, it is a great shade. It's a beautiful shade. Kind of cool. It's a cool tone shade, really nice. So I actually really like that shade in general. The next one is Galaxia, and Galaxia is actually inside of your mini Retro. So if you have mini Retro, if you have this one, so Galaxia is this first shade right here. It's all the beautiful like pigments in it. Now it's interesting that she would put the same shade in two different minis. I don't know. I thought that was an interesting thought. But I do think it will go great with this Starlite look, because this is a great shade to just put all over the lids and just hardly put any other makeup on, and it just glistens. It has like a kind of like a very soft pinky undertone to it, so it almost can look like skin tone depending on what color your skin is, but it has a beautiful little reflect on it. It's just literally gorgeous. The next one is Vega. So now Vega is coming out of the Star palette. I love the Star palette and I never bought it. So I'm so excited because there's two shades coming out of Star. So my friend Amber does have the Star. So I will circle right now which is the shade and her swatches. But what I did was to kind of mimic it. I kind of used her swatch versus the NATASHA DENONA one. The NATASHA DENONA one goes more pink and hers looks more peach, but since I know hers is more of a legitimate swatch, I went ahead and I grabbed the color Unity. So we're gonna go a little bit more peachy, and Unity is a beautiful kind of like peachy tone color. I think it's gonna be like this, okay? So now, this one's a wild card. It could go a little bit more pink, but I don't know. I just called it this color. It could be a little bit less peach, a little bit more pink. I think it's gonna be like a hybrid. So this one is gonna be maybe a little less peach than this, but similar, right? So that's what I'm thinking. The next one is also inside of Star, and based off of my friend's swatches again, I think it's gonna look like the color Spontaneous inside of the Dream palette. I don't know if you guys have the Star, does it look like this? This is what I'm guessing. So I think it's gonna have like a little bit more of like a peachy tone. I think it's gonna be like a peachy tone metallic, these two colors. I don't know, that's what I think. And if it is, honestly, I hope it's more this color than the pinky look that her Natasha Denona's actual swatches look like. I really hope it's more like this, because this is more up my alley, like 100% more up my alley. So I think it's gonna look similar to this. And the last color is Per Se, and that is actually in Lila. So Lila has this color, and actually this is one that is, I don't know if I use Per Se that much. It's a nice color though. I just can't say that I use it that often, and it looks just like that. And actually I'm happy it's there, because that's like a deeper mauve, kind of like smoking out shade, and I think that that was really needed. It's different from Nude Mauve enough that it probably is going to be able to do a nice definition to the outer edge, which was kind of important. Are they kind of similar? They are. I wish actually that maybe this one would have been like a little bit deeper. Like maybe if she would have taken Aspiration out of Dream palette and maybe put this color, that would have been a huge noticeable difference between Nude Mauve and that one. But yeah, this is kind of like what I'm guessing that the palette's going to look like. We already kind of know what it looks like, because like I said, my friend Amber did do her swatches based off of all the colors that are already existing. And I have to say, I'm gonna make up my mind and say I'm buying this palette. I'm not just buying this palette because I'm buying everything Natasha Denona, but also because I think it's really, really pretty. And these are colors that are very up my alley. They are very like subtle, very pretty, very easy to use colors. And I can see them doing like really light, airy looks, which I think you guys know by now. I really like my light, airy looks. I like to play up makeup, but for the most part, I usually do pretty light eyes and a little bit definition on the outer V's, and that's basically it. So this is kind of like up my alley, and I love the name. I love the name is Starlit. I think it kind of works really, really well with the idea of the palette. I think it kind of reminds me of kind of like this palette here, the Dream palette. It's kind of like that type of idea. But like I said, it is all existing shades. So if you have any of those prior palettes, you'd have to just kind of decide whether you want to buy this mini, or you can kind of create it yourself by pulling out the shades and making your own little mini. It's up to you. But like I said, I'm totally on board with this one. I think it's gonna be so beautiful, and I don't have the Star, so I'm actually excited to add these shades to my collection. So anyways, that is all we've got for today's Make Up Your Mind. Let me know down below, what do you guys think in the comment section? Are you excited for this? Are you picking it up? Are you gonna skip this mini? And what do you think is coming out next? And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.